So it's safe to
Powered
say
by
that when it comes
Riverside
to the Hulk in
Presents.
the MCU, he has been dealt a pretty bad hand, actually. Matter of fact, out of the original Avengers, I would say he's probably been the worst handled out of all of them. I mean, Iron Man, obviously, he had a pretty good lifespan. His shelf life was good. He had a good arc. Ended pretty good. Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye. I mean, Hawkeye's still around, but I mean, pretty much like all the other like main Avengers had a pretty good lifespan as far as like mileage. How they were used, their arcs. The Hulk kind of was and still is a pretty weird situation because he's also the only Avenger, the original Avenger. He's the only one that really kind of has a an odd situation. He's in a Spider-Man type deal where Marvel doesn't outright own Hulk. They like have rights to use him, kind of like Spider-Man, where they can use him in like a team up movie, but they can't make a Hulk film. So he's always been kind of set back from that, where like he couldn't really have his own film trilogy or his own films to actually flesh out his character. But I mean, I will say that it's not like the MCU has completely mishandled him from the beginning. Like I would say up until the Age of Ultron, and I would say a good part of Ragnarok is where Hulk's arc really ended. Like peak Hulk was 2012 Avengers. I think that was his best, and then it really Ragnarok showed promise. Like I thought, and I think most people thought that Ragnarok was kind of the turning point for Hulk because he was able to talk. He was his own character. We were actually able to kind of learn more about the Hulk. He was more in control of himself, and so it kind of seemed like going into Infinity War that like he was actually going to be a character. He wasn't just going to be a raging monster that just destroyed shit. And well, Infinity War happened, and Hulk got bitched and jobbed out, and that was the end of the Hulk. Pretty much the end of the Hulk as we know him was a squash match between him and Thanos, and he proceeded to never ever be shown again. He never came out again. He was never brought back for a rematch. And it was unfortunate because the Hulk. I know that I mean, obviously, the Hulk could have just beat the fuck out of Thanos and win the day because then that would defeat the whole point of having this massive crossover. So like, obviously, Hulk was not going to beat Thanos, but like you look at Iron Man. Iron Man had a pretty even match with Thanos, and you look at Doctor Strange. He had a pretty even match with Thanos. So I mean, I get it. Like they used the Hulk to kind of show how powerful Thanos was. That he was able to just beat the fuck out of the Hulk in a few seconds, and then knock him unconscious, and he had to end up getting saved by I forgot his name. The is it Heimdall? Yeah, Heimdall had to beam him down to Earth to save him, and then once he got beamed down to Earth, he turned back into Bruce, and then that was the end of the Hulk. And then we got Professor Hulk in Endgame, which was and still is just a fucking abomination, no pun intended. I don't think there is anyone who looks at Professor Hulk or who thinks Professor Hulk has been anything but a net negative. In fact, it has done a ton of damage. Not maybe not a ton, but it has damaged both the Hulk and the Bruce Banner character because it's the worst of both. It has nothing really good going for it. He's just the worst of both. Like he's nothing of Hulk is good in Professor Hulk. Nothing of good in Bruce Banner is in Hulk. And it doesn't really seem like he's the best of both because like they kept trying to say that in Endgame, like, oh, like I combined the strength of the Hulk and the brains of Bruce and combine them together. And it's like I don't know. It doesn't. It never seemed like an end game that this was an improved version of both. And also, I feel like they just kind of cheated an arc. Like I feel like this is something that should have been built up to that we saw over films. Like it just seemed like they kind of off screen a lot of development that should have happened on screen and kind of fast tracked the Hulk and Bruce to this like end point in their arc, which should have been a pretty good payoff. But instead, it was just a fucking joke and a disappointment. And then we had Hulk and She Hulk, and I mean, well, we know what happened there. He was just fucking, yeah, he was just there and was still pretty much a joke. And after She Hulk, the next time we're going to see Hulk, apparently before Secret Wars or Doomsday, is he's going to show up in the next Spider-Man film, which is interesting. I don't know why the Hulk of all characters is showing up in Spider-Man, but I mean it's something. But it kind of makes me wonder because there's talks of the MCU rebooting and there being kind of like a factory reset after Secret Wars, and I feel like if there's one original character that they should keep or that should be kept around, it's the Hulk because when you look at the other characters, when you look at Iron Man, I really don't think there's anything much you could do with him. Like I think you did as much with Iron Man as you could do. He had a full arc. The shelf life he had was great. His arc was good. It was completed. He had a satisfying ending. Perfect. Captain America, same thing. Black Widow, the same thing. The only other Avenger that's kind of fallen off and has not been dealt a too good of hand is Thor. But I would even argue that if you compared them, and I know it's kind of hard to compare them because Thor has several films, Hulk only has cameos and crossover in other films. But if you compare them as far as an arc wise, I feel like Thor had a lot more mileage. Like we saw an arc from the first Thor to Infinity War. Like there was a clear on screen like genuine natural arc that he went on that we got to see, and it paid off with Thor showing up in Wakanda with Rocket and Groot, with the famous "Bring Me Thanos" when he's using Stormbreaker. So, like, even though Thor has fallen off, especially with Love and Thunder and then Endgame, also damaged Thor quite a bit. I would still say Hulk got the worst of it because, by and large, he's had the least to do and the least amount of development out of all the original characters. And so I feel like if they do a reset or if they do a reboot, that the Hulk is the one character that, and Bruce Banner, that should be kept around because there's a lot you could do with them that it just has not been utilized. Like there's so many stories you could do. There's so many arcs you could do. There's so many different relationships. Like there's so much you could do with the Hulk and Bruce Banner, and there's like that dynamic of this uncontrollable monster of anger and rage, and then this kind of traumatized, very intelligent, one of the smartest and smartest scientists. I think Bruce is a scientist. He's something like that. But like you have this like duality of the Hulk and Bruce, which I mean, it was played on a lot in Avengers and Ultron. But like as the films kind of went on, they kind of didn't really kind of lean into that or kind of keep bringing that on as far as like the duality of Hulk and Bruce. Like they brought it back in Ragnarok, but then after Ragnarok, it just was gone. Like we saw the Hulk for 5 seconds, and then they fast tracked him to being a combination of both of them. So we never really got to see a lot from the Hulk and Bruce, and I mean it's a fucking disappointment because there's so much there that you could do with them. Like you look at the comics and you look at all the the novels, you look at even like the games, you look at the shows. There's so much you could do with them that they just didn't do. And like I mean, I would like to see the Hulk at some point. And I don't think you could do it now because I feel like they would have to do a complete 180 of the Hulk we got now. There would have to be a massive transformation. But I would like to see not the Ragnarok because Ragnarok was a very watered down, very not adapted well version of World War Hulk, like or Planet Hulk. And I feel like if they do a reset of the MCU, that they should definitely have at some point, not initially. I'm not saying that right out the gate the Hulk should be a straight on villain, but like I think over time, like especially since they have the Fantastic Four, like now they have the characters, pretty much all the characters that like are key to that. Like they have the Illuminati, you got Reed Richards, you got Tony Stark, you got Black Panther. I believe Charles is there too from the X Men. So like you have all the characters there, you have all the elements to where you could do at some point a Professor Hulk, not Professor Hulk. You could do a World War Hulk type of story, and that'd be kind of cool. Like at some point, like the Hulk is like an end, like a phase end of a phase type boss, like a Thanos. I think that'd be kind of cool. I mean, or you could even do like a dystopian Old Man Logan type, where you have the Maestro Hulk, where you have this like older, very intelligent, very experienced, battle hardened Hulk that's like, in this apocalyptic wasteland. Or you could do, like, you could do other, tons of different types of Hulk variants or like different directions you could take the Hulk. And that's kind of why, like, the fact that they've just kept him as this, pretty much a fucking soccer dad that's green with nothing really going for him. It's just disappointing. Like, I mean, even like the Hulk characters in the MCU have been done poorly. Like even She-Hulk. Like She-Hulk was a massive disappointment, at least to me, and I think to a lot of people. I mean, it even seems like it seems like Marvel kind of are embarrassed and kind of just want to forget that She-Hulk ever existed because like they have said nothing about She-Hulk. Like there's been no mention of a season 2 or her showing up. Like that entire project has just been fucking left behind, and the less said, the better. Like Marvel has just pretty much tried to make as much distance between them and She-Hulk and that whole show as possible. So it doesn't seem like She-Hulk probably is going to be coming back for a while. And so She-Hulk was handled poorly because like She-Hulk also is another character that you could do a lot with, especially since you could explore the interesting dynamic of having a world with superheroes and having a law firm and having a lawyer that's also a superhero having to deal with a very interesting and very complex legal system and laws that would definitely be in place from superheroes, aka the Sokovia Accords, which the MCU conveniently forgot at some point. So even with the characters that are like from the Hulk, kind of the Hulk spear, they've been handled poorly. I mean, and also not only have they been handled poorly, but like it seems like they've given everything that should be part of the Hulk to other characters, like in Captain America: Brave New World. That's pretty much a Hulk film without a Hulk because they got Thunderbolt Ross and Red Hulk, who were both notable and iconic Hulk villains. They have Betty Ross, who has never in the entirety of the MCU showed up in there and has nothing to do with the Hulk. You have Abomination show up in She-Hulk and and barely have anything to do with Hulk. Like it's like they not only do they do nothing with the Hulk, but then like all the Hulk characters and all the Hulk lore, connected characters that have like connections to him, they do nothing with. They just give them to other characters. That I don't understand. You're like I don't know why out of all the characters Marvel have that they decided to just give all these Hulk specific characters. Oh, then they even gave oh fuck, what's his name? The main villain in Captain America: Brave New World. Not Brainiac. That's DC. Um, I forgot his name, but the main guy and the main villain in Brave New World is actually the same guy who was who was in the Edward Norton uh Hulk film. And he is in Captain America. Instead of having him as like a Hulk villain, he's a Captain America villain. Like it's the most random shit. It's like I don't know why Marvel thought that they need to give all the Hulk characters to other stories and the other characters who have nothing to do with him, but they decided to do that for some reason. But like like yeah, so even like the characters that are connected to the Hulk, they've just handled poorly, or they've just like done the most strange, weird directions with. Where it's like I don't know why you have the Red Hulk and Falcon slash Captain America having a fight. That's something that should be a Hulk centric thing. Like that should be a Hulk concern. I mean, at least like at the very least, like okay, I get you can't make a Hulk film, but at least have him in the film to deal with it. Like you would think that the Hulk would have a very strong interest in the fact that Thunderbolt Ross is a president, and then B is also a Hulk, and then you'd also think he would have a pretty big interest in Betty Ross showing up because. So this is also something that is kind of weird with the Hulk because they for a while there it wasn't kind of clear if the Edward Norton Hulk and the Bruce Banner Hulk were technically the same character, but it seems like they have made it to where they are supposed to be the same character. So all the events that happen in the Edward Norton film are canon to the MCU because we also know that Tony Stark shows up at the end of that film. And we also know that in She-Hulk, Abomination specifically and directly brings up the events of that film. So we know that that film is canon to the MCU. So that means that Betty Ross and Bruce Banner have that same relationship. And so you would think with that Betty Ross and Bruce would have a pretty strong interest in reconnecting. Never brought up. And also Bruce never brings up Betty Ross, and neither does the Hulk, and she does not exist to the Hulk and Bruce Banner, but somehow she shows up for a few seconds at the end of Captain America to talk to Thunderbolt Ross to calm him down from being a Red Hulk, which again, this should have been a Hulk thing. This should have been Hulk and Bruce and Thunderbolt and Red Hulk and Betty Ross. Like, even though they can't be in a official Hulk film, you could have had like a technical Hulk film hidden in a Captain America film, but that's here or there. So, needless to say, it's pretty clear that Marvel has not done the best job at dealing with the Hulk situation, and so it begs the question of what should they do going forward? Because as it stands now, I don't know, like as it stands now, the Hulk I feel is just kind of lost in the shuffle because he's one of the last of the original Avengers left, but at the same time, he's just not really a focal point. Like besides this upcoming Spider-Man film, the Hulk is not showing up except for the She-Hulk film, the show. And besides those two, he's really not been anything. And also, like I said, they can't really do much with him outside of putting him in other shows and movies since the whole universal rights problem. But even with that, like I don't think that's really an excuse they can use because they did use him well back when they first started making the MCU films. And so what I think should happen, as long as they are keeping the current MCU before, because we don't know when they're going to do this reset, when and if they do it. But it seems like Secret Wars is going to be kind of like the reset point. But assuming it's not, assuming that the MCU as it stands goes on for a while, I think that they should do a complete. So, unlike a lot of characters where they have reverted or regressed, I think that this is a character. The Hulk is a character, weirdly enough, that would benefit from having a regression of character. And what I mean by that is instead of having him be the current, fucking Leave It to Beaver, green hulking dad, you have him revert back into being like the 2012 version of the Hulk, where something happens. I don't know if he's like in like some type of radioactive reaction, or some event happens where he ends up fusing, not fusing, or like separating, where like the fusion between him and Bruce is undone, where like Bruce and Hulk are separate. I mean, if you even wanted to, you could do it to where there's something that happens where like Bruce and Hulk are split to where they're two separate characters, like they're not the same being. But I feel like if they do that, that would just kind of strip away a lot of the interesting dynamics and a lot of the character that both of them have. Because I feel like a good bit of the Hulk's character and the Bruce character kind of feeds off each other. Like they do complement each other. So I feel like trying to separate them would not be the best idea. So what they should do is have something happen, some event or whatever happen where Bruce ends up reverting back to being just Bruce, and then the Hulk goes back to being what the Hulk was like in the 2012 film. The monster full of rage and anger. And then you regress him back to being pretty much you regress him to being a day one, like where they were back in 2012. And then you can go from there. Because you can actually work from that. Because as it stands, really, I mean, Bruce and the Hulk both did not really have the best characterization. I mean, they did have good, but it wasn't the best. And then what characterization they did have was just kind of abandoned or just kind of fast tracked to a non satisfying ending. So it's not like if you undid anything that's happened, people would be mad. Like, it's not like you're undoing what Tony Stark's arc was. Like, you regress Tony Stark back to how he was in '08, or you regress the character development of, like, Captain America back to when he first came out of ice. Like, the Hulk as a character and Bruce are two characters that actually would benefit from having their character regress and having a complete reset. And it's funny because Marvel has been kind of doing this with a lot of characters they have. And the one character that they should do this with, they haven't done it with. And so, what I would recommend doing is having Bruce Banner be revert back to being just Bruce, and then you have the Hulk revert back to being Hulk, and then you could even have it to where whatever the incident or the situation is that causes them to kind of go back to their pre smart Hulk form, where like the Hulk now is more feral, more out of control. Maybe the Hulk is a lot harder to control, or like Bruce is having to kind of deal with like the fact that now he's having to have this duality of him and the Hulk, and having the fear of being taken over by the Hulk. Because something that they kind of explore in Ragnarok, which I think is interesting, is where when Bruce comes back, because for most of the film, Ragnarok, it's Hulk and not Bruce, and then finally Bruce takes control, and he talks about how he felt like how it normally is that he's in the driver's seat, and then Hulk is like in the passenger seat or the back seat, and he said that when the Hulk was in control, he felt like he was in the back seat and he had no control. And so I think if they explored that, like the fact that when either one takes over, that the other is just kind of trapped inside of this psyche where they can't do anything. They're conscious and aware of what's happening, but they can't do anything, and they're powerless to actually try to force their will to actually take control until something happens where they can take control. And that would be kind of cool because it would cause for some interesting conflict between Bruce and the Avengers or whoever the team is, because you could have it be where Bruce, he's not as as eager to try to turn into the Hulk because he knows if I go into Hulk or I let Hulk come out, there's a solid chance I just will be stuck in the Hulk psyche, or I'll be stuck in there, and the Hulk will just go on this bloodlusted rampage and do ungodly amounts of damage, and then I'm gonna have to deal with it, and that's gonna also cause an issue for the Avengers. Like you could do a lot with that type of that conflict where Bruce is not actually wanting to be fully on board being an Avenger, where he's like, yeah, I don't, I can't really risk like whatever the danger that we're fighting, the Hulk might pose an equal, if not worse, threat. And so, it kind of gets in the debate of at what is the risk of having the Hulk come out? Like, is the risk there for what the ultimate risk of having the Hulk could be? Like, I don't know, like if I can control the Hulk, or if the Hulk will actually be a positive. Like, the Hulk comes out and decides not to help the Avengers and does his own thing. Like, that'd be cool too. Where like the Hulk, he has his own persona where Bruce goes into Hulk thinking he's gonna, help the Avengers, and Hulk's like, yeah, no, fuck that. Like, I'm not just here to like come out whenever you need, me to, punch the fucking bad guy or or beat the fuck out of some. Like, I'm gonna do my own thing. Like, I'm not gonna help these fucking people I don't give a fuck about or know about. Like, they're your friends. Like, I don't got nothing to do with them. They don't like me probably, and I don't like them. So fuck them. Like, you could cause some conflict like that, and then that could ultimately lead to a World War Hulk or a Planet Hulk story where like the Hulk at some point, like over time, the Hulk is such a problem that the Avengers and the heroes on Earth are like, we gotta come up with an idea to deal with this, and you could ultimately lead to where the Hulk ends up being like a major antagonist, like almost like you could like I really think if it was set up correctly, maybe I don't think in this current MCU, but like in another version, another version of the MCU, you could have a phase built up to a World War Hulk, uh, climax where you have the Hulk taking on everyone. Like I think that would be cool. Like I think it would be cool to have this insanely powerful, fully unleashed Hulk, because we've never got to see that with the Hulk, and I think that's something that most people, I think everyone would actually be interested in seeing, like a Hulk that is fully unleashed. Like he's not held back, he's not nerfed, he's not jobbed out. Like he's able to fully go out, and it takes the entirety of all the heroes fighting together, and even some of the villains. Like you could have people where it's such a threat that like villains and heroes have to team up, and they have to throw everything they got to fucking take down the Hulk. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think that would be a pretty satisfying arc. I think people that are fans of the Hulk would love it. I think people who are just, casual watchers of the MCU would be interested in that. Because if you do that right, that could be a really big arc. That could be a really, and just like think about the fight scenes. Like you could have so many different types of interesting fight scenes, like, Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch versus the Hulk. And then you could have like, Iron Man and Sentry versus the Hulk. And then you could have, some of the street level characters trying to do their thing from afar. Like there's so much you could do with that. And depending on how they develop to that arc, the relationships that Bruce and Hulk could have developed and how that would affect the, conflict between Hulk and them, like there's a lot you could do there. But as far as like the current MCU, I think they could at least do that where they could revert the Hulk back to being the 2012 era and have him being the savage Hulk. But you could like I think you could regress him back to like the Ragnarok era, to where the Hulk is like sentient and he is conscious and he has his own character. Like he's not just a hulking monster that just destroys stuff and smashes stuff and punches bad guys. Like he actually has a character. And like you could build on that. Like you could build on what is the Hulk's character. Like I thought, because I thought that would be kind of cool. Like if you had a situation where, let's say, in Infinity War, where Hulk gets beat, and then in Endgame, he actually comes back out and like he's having to deal with the fact that a I got the fuck beat out of me, which is something that's never happened before. B, partly because of me not wanting to cooperate, half of the universe has been erased. And three, now I have to deal with this. Like, I kind of have to, like, you could have where the Hulk's like, I feel responsible for not doing my part, not doing enough to stop Thanos. So now I'm going to do as much as I can to stop Thanos. Like, that would have been a cool arc where, like, you have him and you have Thor, where, like, you could have taken Thor in a dark direction, which I still think that would have been the cool combination. If you had had a dark anti hero Thor who had went down such a dark path after all the loss and then feeling like he was the reason half the universe got erased. That like now he is like a straight on like dark anti villain or anti-hero. And then you have the Hulk kind of in that same category. Like that would have been I think that would have been a cool fucking combo to have an anti-hero pair of Thor and Hulk at full strength. That would have been a fucking sight to see. Fortunately, we didn't get that, and unfortunately, those two characters were both the fucking joke of that film. But nonetheless, um, I think that that's the route that they should go forward. I think that they should make the Hulk kind of go back to being what he was pre. I'd even say pre Ragnarok because in Ragnarok, I liked the concepts that they were going with the Hulk, but I didn't fully like some of the things that like I didn't like how they made him as childish and childlike as they did. Like I feel like no, I mean, I know, I kind of know what they're trying to go for, but I just didn't like it as much. Like, I feel like they should have tried to go more of like he, is more conscious, more sentient of his existence, and but now he has his own, his own desires and his own wants, but like not make him like a kid because I get the idea is like, well, he's technically a kid because like he's just because like this is the first time he's been on his own and all that. Like, I get it, but like I feel like they should have done more where like he's like kind of like a young adult just like trying to figure out life. Like, what do I do now that I'm in control? Like, this is the first time ever in my existence I've had full control and like long term control where I just don't revert back to Bruce after a few minutes or a few hours. Like, I'm actually me for a long period of time, like for years or months. Like, that'd be kind of cool to actually build on that. Like, what is the Hulk's character? Like, what is his perspective of having to share this, duality, to share an existence with Bruce and then knowing Bruce, how he doesn't want him to come out. Like you could do a lot with that. So I feel like that's the direction they should go with the Hulk. Now will they go that direction? Probably not, unfortunately. But one thing I did think about is that since they are doing the whole multiversal deal and like every film they do now, there has to be some type of version or variant of a character from another franchise or another property. And now there's actually two ideas I have for a brand new day. The first is they could have the Hulk, but it's not the Professor Hulk. Like if they could do it, I don't know if they could. I don't even know if the actor would be up for it. But if they could get Edward Norton back as the Hulk, and like let's say I don't know, Spider Man's like having to deal with some interdimensional problems or he ends up in another universe or whatever the case, because I mean we've seen in Spider-Man, we've seen that he has dealt with characters from other dimensions, other realities, so it wouldn't be too out there for Spider-Man. You could have it where it is the Hulk, but it's not Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, it's Edward Norton's Hulk. Now, see, now that I think that would be cool. Like, I mean, if they're gonna go all in on having all the fucking nostalgic actors, bringing all the X Men back and all the old actors back, why not bring Edward Norton back as the Hulk? I mean, that'd be fucking fantastic. I think most people would be happy to see that. So that could be a possibility for what the Hulk will be in a new day. Or the second option is that this is a Hulk from another timeline. Pretty much like the same Edward Norton thing, right? It's just not Edward Norton, it's just a different Hulk. Which I think that'd be kind of cool. Like if you have like another Hulk which is not from the mainline Earth, you could do some of that. Like I think that'd be pretty cool too. But like I thought about that because I was like, well, it is possible. Because when I first heard that the Hulk was going to be in the Spider-Man, upcoming Spider-Man film, I was like, that seems kind of random. Like I don't know why the Hulk of all characters. But then like if they're going to be doing like, and I'm sure a New Day is going to set up in some way Doomsday and Secret War, so it's going to tie into the multiversal things that they've been doing. Since it's going to tie into that, I mean, why not have a Hulk from another dimension or another timeline? Like that would be kind of cool, and that way you could actually do a lot. Because I'm gonna be honest, as it stands, I really don't see what you can like. There's not much to this current Hulk. Like he doesn't have much of a character. His personality is as fucking bland as as a piece of wheat toast. I really just don't. I really don't see there being much in this Hulk because like this Hulk is just such a watered down fucking disappointment of a Hulk. I just don't think you might as well just have a fucking just a big muscled up scientist, and you'd have the same thing as the current Hulk. Like there'd be no difference. So I hope that either they do something really transformative, or like they have a new version of the Hulk, or like they do some form of my plan where they revert the Hulk back to being like a more savage, more primal, more 2012 Avengers Hulk, or they have a Hulk from another dimension. Like I hope that's the route to go because as it stands. I have no interest in seeing Professor Hulk and Spider Man teaming up for anything. And then you throw in the Punisher, like I don't know, dude. Maybe it's just me, but I have next to no interest in seeing any of that. But with that being said, that's all I really have to say about it. Just my thoughts on the whole Hulk situation. So I think I'm gonna call it a day here, and I will see you good people later.